Hi, hello to everyone. This is Avid Academy, and we are going to have a discussion on India's viewpoint on Israel-Palestinian issue. See, after the independence of Israel, or you can say that when United Nation agreed on splitting the Palestinian land into two parts, India was never in favor of Israel. India always supported Palestine, but over a period of time, I would say after 1990s, the shift in India's behavior toward the Palestine is very evident, and it can be seen by this UNGA voting. See, United Nations Governing Assembly was to vote on humanitarian truce, but India abstained from this voting and showed a clear cut support to Israeli. But earlier, if you would see the history of India's support to this issue, you would find that India always supported Palestine. But the recent change can be attributed to various factors involving India and Israel cordial relation that has developed over a period of time, and you can also include the Hamas has played a very significant role in deteriorating the relation of India and Palestine. So we are going to talk about this issue in length and breadth throughout this video. First of all, the news is very clear. United Nations Governing Assembly voted a resolution, but India abstained from it. India abstained from the vote along with 44 other countries. It means that India is neither supporting nor is against the Israeli effort to invade the Gaza Strip. So 120 countries voted in favor that humanitarian truce has to be established and Israel has to stop invading the Gaza Strip. 14 voted against it, 14 wants the fight to continue, and they are in favor of complete invasion of Gaza Strip and thus elimination of the Hamas terrorist. India's behavior has changed and abstention from the voting has been criticized by the opposition party. You can see out here Rahul Gandhi and other opposition is very clear. I think that it is also inspired by the vote bank politics. Vote bank politics plays a very important role in countries like India, and you have to understand this point that Palestinian issue has a direct correlationship with Indian Muslim, and Indian Muslim has a direct correlation with Congress. So Congress has to support the Palestinian cause, whereas the current government is on a tight rope. They want to balance the situation very carefully, and that's why you have seen that India is also supporting Palestinian by providing humanitarian aid. India is giving certain humanitarian aid through Egypt as well as supporting Israel by abstaining from the voting. You can see out here the Indian government faced criticism from the opposition. See, opposition work is to criticize, otherwise why they are in opposition? India has abstained, breaking from its historical voting pattern. This is very evident. India used to support Palestinian cause, but nowadays India's voting pattern has changed. India is clearly showing a hint that we are not against the invasion as well as they are against the Hamas terrorist. Now, but as Jayasankar has clearly made this point and given the reason for his abstention, for India's abstention, External Affairs Minister has said that India's vote aligning with anti-terrorism stance. I am telling you, India's stance is against Hamas. India has never supported Hamas, but India has always been in favor of PLO. During the Yasser Arafat time, the Fatah faction, you have to understand this, PLO has a faction that is called Fatah, and Fatah faction was founded by Yasser Arafat, and during the Yasser Arafat time India used to be very close with the Palestinian issue. India used to support, there was a very cordial relation, but today you have to understand this very important thing that there is no face for the Palestinian leader. There is no person who you can call a leader from the Palestinian side. Along with the internal strife between the Palestinian leader is also a reason that most of the countries are abstaining from it. the issue of Palestine is only relevant with the West Asian nation. India sought a more explicit condemnation of the October 7 terror attack. India is not picking a side. India is saying that whatever is going on Gaza Strip has to be condemned, but first of all, you have to condemn the 7 October terror attack in which the Palestinian, or you can say that the Hamas, entered the territory of Israel, killed the innocent Israeli as well as abducted many Israelis into the Hamas territory, into the Gaza Strip, and even killed them. So whatever the Israeli is doing is just a retaliation, and that's why these are the reason given by India's external minister, because of which India has abstained from the voting. I hope you are understanding the concept clearly, that why India is doing this and how India's behavior or voting pattern has been changed. Now this is the current scenario, but what about the history? The historical stance on Israel and Palestine was very clear when United Nations divided this entire land into two parts in 1947 and created a Palestine region for the Muslim, as well as the region used to be very big. It consists of a large area, but different war in 1947, in 1967, as well as in 1972 or 73, and then a small conflict throughout the history has played a very important role for the Israeli, and Israeli occupied a large portion of the Palestinian land that was being awarded by the United Nations. So historical stance of his on Israel and Palestine was very clear. Gandhi never supported the creation of Israel. Gandhiji always supported the Palestinian cause. India in 1948 recognized the PLO, that is the Palestine Liberation Organization. India acknowledged Palestine in 1988, but India's voting pattern started changing. There was a nuance in the voting pattern from the 1990s, and there was a starting of a cordial relation between the Israel and India. You have to understand there were many factors that influenced Israel and India's relation, that included the tech transfer. The technology that Israeli were developing was given to India. Not only that, Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agency, helped India on many fronts. So Mossad helped in internal security. India learned many things from the Israelis, and that helped India into create a very robust infrastructure for internal security. So technology driven relation, internal security driven relation, as well as arms and ammunition was given to India. Better relationship in agriculture sector, all has played a very important role in developing a good relationship with Israel. Today we are standing on a situation in which we have a better relationship with Israel, and somehow Palestinian cause is no longer a priority for India. Now let's talk about the significance of India's abstention. You can see out here this picture depict very correctly the India's position. So if this picture is depicting India, on one side there are nations like Russia, China, as well as the BRICS nation, I would call, and West Asian nations that is supporting the Palestinian cause, whereas in the other side India has a very good relationship with USA, UK, as well as Australia and other nations. So India is balancing its relationship with each and every person on a tight rope, and it is not easy for India to manage such a relation, but India can do so only by abstaining. If India would support or go against, it means India is on one faction. But by walking on this tightrope, India has shown that India is not supporting any of the nation. India has abstained and shown a clear picture that India is not aligned. Now lastly, I want to conclude with India's recent voting pattern reflect only one thing, that the growing tendency to abstain. India is neither on the side of the Russia or the Ukraine. India has completely said that India has a good relationship with the Ukraine, but Russian are also a friend of India, and India would do whatever that would benefit the Indian people. So India's policy is driven by the effect that would produce to the Indian people, and thus India is clearly not aligned to any of the parties, thus avoiding the conflict. So that's how India wants to go in this bipolar world. For the UPSC preparation, you can write down an answer on this topic, examine India's historical position on the Israel Palestinian issue. You have to point out the points related to the historical relation. You have to analyze the reason why India has abstained from the United Nations General Assembly voting. I have given you multiple points. You have to include Hamas into it because of the anti-terror stance of India. India has abstained. And lastly, you have to discuss the implication of the shift. What would happen? What would be the world's viewpoint on India? I must tell you, world is not going to react bitterly because India has a cordial relation with each and every nation. Neither BRICS would be going to have a strange behavior because India has a good relationship with Russia and South Africa. Neither the West is going to point finger against India because they need India to counter the emerging power like Russia and China. So I hope most of the point has been cleared out here. That's it for this video. Thank you.